All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and with me today I have Michael Haltman, and we from Hallmark Abstract Services in New York City. We are going to be talking about reinventing your business. Michael, thanks for being here today.
You know what, Damon? Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity, and I really appreciate it. We're going to have a great time.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. There's a lot of stuff for us to talk about, a lot of things we were getting going back before we started here, and I'm really excited to talk today. So, Michael, let's talk a little bit about your history, your background, and kind of how you got in the situation where you needed to do a significant reinvention of your business.
Okay. Well, I'll give you the back of the napkin summary of my life. So when I got out of business school in the '80s, I was a bond analyst and a bond trader on Wall Street uh,
Hmm.
for a few of the big firms that aren't in existence anymore.
Yeah.
Obviously. Uh, then I became a proprietary equity trader for many years at a firm that ended up being the largest proprietary equity trading firm in the country. And at some point, it was about 2002, I decided to open up a commercial mortgage lending company.
Hmm.
And it was going great. We would make the loans, we would table fund them in the bank's name, actually in my name. It was being funded by a bank, and
Hmm.
we would sell to the CMBS market. And in 2008, that was a tough time. When we
Yeah.
failed, it was, the CMBS market went away, uh, and my business was no longer viable. At the same time, as if that wasn't enough, my wife was in a family business of hard money residential construction lending.
Oh
And
my.
you can't get in a more illiquid part of the market than that. And 2008 was not very kind to them either. And they went out of business. So my wife and I were both of us out of business. We had two girls in college. We had one son who was on his way, and we needed to reinvent very quickly. And here,
Wow.
and here we are today.
You
So
know, I this the situation that you are in, I'm sure it had to cause some sleepless nights and things. Definitely,
you know
definitely.
what, though, I left out one part. We also lost most of our money.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, sleepless nights, definitely, definitely.
yeah. So I just, I don't laugh at you. I'm
Yeah.
laughing right alongside you because that would be a tough situation trying to envision that and just thinking where 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 do you start at a situation like that? In a situation like that.
Well, I think the first place you start is you have to get your mind on straight.
Yeah.
There's a part of the brain. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called the amygdala, and it's basically the fight or flight part of your brain.
Yeah.
And you have two choices. You can either curl up in the fetal position and let it let the river take you wherever it takes you, or you have to get up and fight and work to make the situation better. And you know, through my life, I've never been the fetal position kind of guy, and
Hmm.
we got up and we fought.
Yeah. Didn't I see that you actually were a boxer in the past life?
Actually, that's true too.
Yeah.
So in the '70s, I don't know if you're familiar with the Catskills in New York.
Hmm.
So I worked as a bellhop at Grossinger's, which was like the queen of all of those hotels. I went to school up in Albany. We would drive down on weekends. We would work the weekends, but that was the day when all the professional boxers trained in the Catskills, and there were boxing clubs around the hotel. So I did partake in boxing, but the only sanctioned fight I ever had was about 10 years ago in what's known as the Long Island Fight for Charity, where
Yeah.
businessmen train. raise money, and then get in the ring and fight. So
Oh,
I was. Yes, I was.
how-
But no. So you really you have to fight.
yeah, you have to fight because it's right. So many people after the situation, like I am now, look at it and go, wow, wow, wow. And when you're in those situations, it's a lot different. So do you think that, did you just kind of go, okay, this is where we're at. I can feel sorry for a little while. And then did you just go, boom, now it's time to turn it on?
You know what? I got to be honest with you. I don't recall ever really feeling sorry. At that
There you
time,
go.
it wasn't really, it wasn't anyone's fault, and it wasn't
Hmm.
unique to me. It
Yeah.
was really a time of pain for a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
you have to kind of try and sit down and think about what it is what your options are, what the opportunities are. We actually looked into some crazy things like there's a thing, there's a website called GovBizOps where the federal government asks the RFPs for everything they buy. We looked
Yep.
into that.
Yep.
We looked into a few different things, but at the end of the day, for my wife, title insurance was a key part of her business. And in my business of commercial mortgage lending, title insurance was also a key. So we knew the product. We had actually looked into title insurance as a little bit of an ancillary stream of income while we were still had our companies. And fortunately, there was a woman who was unhappy with the title company she was at, and you know what? We brought her on. She's still with us today, and we started. It was a tough time to start a title company, I can tell you that.
Hmm.
But you know what? We've grown. We've grown well. The issues back then, there weren't a lot of barriers to entry, but the good title insurance underwriters wouldn't take on a fledgling company, particularly at that time. So we had to go with some of the lesser underwriters, which created its own catch 22 because the
Hmm.
attorneys want a good underwriter, but you can't get the good underwriter until you've built up to a certain point. So it was a little bit of a struggle at the beginning, but you know what? What doesn't kill you kills you. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and we just persevered. And I'll tell you something else is that when the going gets tough in a lot of marriages, that kills marriages because
Yep.
when everything's great and it doesn't take much work. But when things go to crap, you kind of find out who you're in the foxhole with. So,
That's for
we
sure.
persevered, and here we are, 36 years.
Awesome. And you work together in business now?
We do. We own the company together. We sit in office together.
Awesome.
We spend a lot of time together. But
That's
you know
that's
what?
awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
Most
Good
people say
stuff.
they couldn't necessarily do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's just depends. Just depends.
exactly. Well,
You.
I'm a little more easygoing. So,
Hmm.
personality. If you have two people who are not easygoing, it can be much more difficult. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all good.
So as you thought about this and you've started reinventing your business, you're in title insurance, which you knew a little bit about going into it. What are some of the things now that you've been in the title insurance business for a while and you're thinking about reinventing? What are some of the things that you brought to the title insurance business that maybe wasn't there before, that people hadn't thought about that much, that really helps you guys to set yourself apart from other companies?
Well, some of the things are so the title insurance industry is I'm not going to call it a dinosaur kind of industry, but a lot of the companies are run by older people,
Yeah.
and technology is not necessarily something that they think about, care about. And, I always thought that I was never really on social media as personally. but it's you have to create a brand. You have to broaden your footprint. You have to get exposure. And social media is great. Blogging is great. Getting onto podcasts and creating podcasts is great. Trying to get as much uh, media,
Mm-hmm.
media time as you possibly can. Title insurance is a funny industry. It's not they always talked about how the blockchain was going to destroy the industry, and it was going to be the be all and end all of a lot of industries. But the industry is kind of what the industry is. There are some changes. There's electronic recording, but beyond that, it is pretty much what it is, and you have to try and create different avenues to try and set yourself apart. So that's kind of how I viewed it at the time. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
have we have some technology that we didn't create, but that is, we're probably one of the not very many companies who utilize it. That is a
Mm-hmm.
value add to our clients, and just being out there.
Yeah.
You gotta just continue to be out there.
Yeah. You talk about a couple things. Uh, One, the companies being run by older people. We run into that a lot in the business brokerage, business sales, M&A world too. It seems like it doesn't seem like it's run by a lot of people that look like you or I with a bit of gray. And the as you said, technology um, and then just being out there in the media is really non-existent for a lot of them.
Right.
And it's interesting. So as you've embraced the technology, as you've embraced things, getting on podcasts, you guys have the Do You Wonder podcast. I want to talk about that in a little bit. But what has that really showed you about business that you didn't know when you were in your previous business?
You know what? In the previous business, I don't think that I was out there quite enough. I don't think that I embraced the networking, the going out and shaking hands, the being there. Someone who I early on in this company, I went to a couple of networking meetings, and one guy in particular would always say, your company can't be a secret. You have to be out there. You have to let people know that you exist, what you can do, what your track record is, and I took that to heart. It is very key.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's interesting how your what you learned there is something I did as well too. And in the corporate roles, I had no reason really to network running companies. It was like it was a waste. Honestly, I looked at it as a waste of time. And I look back at that, and that was one thing that the people that were much more intelligent about their building their careers than I was. It's a big part of it. And if you're not doing that consistently, even when you're working with for a company, it's important to build that network up. And because you can't be a secret, whether it's you personally or you as a company.
100%. Early in my career, I didn't play the politics of the corporate world as I would today. I guess they say youth is wasted on the young, and I'm going to say that's pretty much true, because I always say that if I had it to go back and do it over again, it would have been a hell of a lot different.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. And the other thing about it can't be a secret. I think that I talked to a lot of people about that, and I was just actually talking to a company this morning, and we know that we need to talk to more people. We need to cast a wider net in business and explain, build the relationship with people that might someday or could know somebody someday that might want to do business with us. But it seems like that step to go from I know this is what I need to do and actually doing it is like the Grand Canyon for some people.
No question. I mean, I think in life there's a lot of inertia. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to change. It's hard to make change. It's hard to, if things are kind of status quo, going along fine, not horrible, not terrific, but it can be hard to light a fire under your butt to get out there.
Exactly. That need to change. Like when when you were in the situation where, well, we gotta do something.
Right.
I mean, that's where a lot of people, it seems like they have to go before they really start to do these kind of things.
100%.
Yeah. But if we can get ourselves to kind of stay, not necessarily be in that situation in the real world, but keep our mind mentally in there, it sure seems like it would help us as we go.
Absolutely. But they always say change is tough. A good friend of mine, he had a good job at a brokerage firm, uh, and then they did their typical reorgs, and
Hmm.
he was out, and he ended up creating a new career that is incredibly more successful, and he's incredibly more happier, and but it never would have happened if an outside influence hadn't forced him to do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, unfortunately, that's what happens most or a lot of
Yeah.
the time.
Well, do you feel that way about yourself now? Are you think you're happier now with this business working with your wife than the two of you were before?
uh I think so.
Yeah.
I think we are.
Yeah.
Certainly some of the scars of those situations, what is it, 14 years ago, some of those scars still remain.
Yeah.
But, we've had a good run, and I think I would say probably yes, we are happier.
Good. Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. That's great when you can emerge from have a tough situation like that and get it and feel at least like, I think we're better. you know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's good. So you got a title insurance company. What was the reason behind doing your podcast? Do You Wonder podcast?
Well, do you ever wonder is something that I was in the shower one day, and the name came to me, but the reason behind it really is part and parcel of growing my footprint, growing our
Hmm.
exposure. It's not for my exposure, it's the exposure of the company. So, what I try to do is to have guests, and it takes a little time to bring on people who, maybe have a little more stature, but they're not going to come on unless you have someone who has a little bit of stature.
Hmm.
You want to belong to a club that wouldn't have them as a member, kind of deal.
Hmm.
It's Groucho Marx. But
Yep.
I thought it was a good concept, and I thought that it would, if I did a lot of different topics, not necessarily just real estate, but health and wellness, or technology, or like Marcus Ogden, he spoke of, how do you create a top 1% podcast in
Hmm.
not very much time, I might add.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, those, if I kind of like doing it, to be honest.
Hmm.
I never thought I would. Like if you would ask me 20 years ago, hey, do you see yourself sitting on a camera, talking to people, interviewing people, asking questions to people? I'll be quite honest, and I could never have imagined that.
Yeah.
But I kind of enjoy it. So
Yeah.
that's great. But it's also the always thinking and trying to find guests who I think have something to bring to the table.
Yeah.
So, this last week I had a real coup, which was there's a New York City commercial real estate broker who is like a, very well known,
Hmm.
Bob Knackel, and through persistence, he came on as a guest, and it was great. But I also see having him on as a guest as maybe a stepping stone to other people in real estate
Mm-hmm.
who are at a certain level that people want to hear. But,
Yeah.
again, that's all part of trying to grow the Hallmark Abstract Service brand.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really interesting that you said I have the same
Don't
thing
forget,
about I love that too.
I was a president of a networking group, and when I
Yeah.
was no longer president, they got me this as a parting gift. And one day I'm sitting in front of the microphone, this microphone, and I'm like, wow, that looks pretty good. So that
That's
became
awesome.
my logo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And the fact that you're covering different topics I think is good too because you keep it interesting doing that
Right.
and different people on it. So, uh what are some of your aspirational people you'd like to have on if you want to share them?
You know what? Some of the leaders of real estate, I'm actually going to be on Dottie Herman's radio show on
Mhm.
Saturday, but I would love to have her on. And
Very
she's a
good.
tough cat. You familiar with Dottie Herman?
No, I am not.
So she's the CEO of Douglas Elliman.
Oh, okay.
She grew up in the industry, but she's at the heights. She's at the
Yeah.
peak. And uh, off the top of my head, I can't give you specific names
Yeah.
other than her, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who I think have achieved and accomplished a lot, and I think people would like to hear about how they got there, how they stay there, what their
Hmm.
future looks like. I find all that stuff pretty interesting.
Yes. Yes, definitely. So what's the most interesting thing that you've learned from interviewing these people?
I think that there's a constant thread through a lot of them, and that is, they're workaholics. They love, I guess, what that they love what they do.
Uh-huh.
And that old saying: if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. And
Hmm.
a lot of these people are just focused. Really, really. Uh, what's the word? Yeah, they're really focused on they have their eye on the prize,
Yeah.
I guess I would say. A
Yeah.
lot of people meander through life, but a lot of these high achievers, they don't meander. They have a target and they're aimed at that target, and they fight until they achieve their goals.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome because I agree 100%. When you start talking with people that have achieved things in life, you can tell that they've had probably just as many setbacks as anyone else. They've probably had to work harder than anyone else in a lot of respects, but that persistence and focus and loving what they do, because I don't think you can do it without really love and that's it's that strong a word I think you need to use and the focus to do it, otherwise they wouldn't go through that to get there.
Exactly. You have to, whatever it is you do in life, I guess you have to have somewhat of a passion for it and a drive.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, really good. So you are also a part of Heroes to Heroes.
I am.
Explain a little bit about that because I want don't want to get off today without talking about that.
Well, I appreciate that. So, the Heroes to Heroes Foundation is a non denominational combat veteran 501c3. And we work, and actually, we successfully save combat vets who return home suffering moral injury and who live it at high risk of death by suicide. And
Hmm.
I don't know how familiar you are with moral injury, but basically it's that you've done something, seen something
Yeah.
so abhorrent, so against everything that we hold
Yeah.
as the basic tenets of society that you can't live with yourself. So we have a 15-month program. Uh, it's based in peer support, spiritual awakening, and reconnection to faith. And the center part of the program, we send teams to Israel, where there's no more spiritual place in the world, and whether it's at the Western Wall or getting baptized in the Jordan River or at Yad Vashem, something triggers the understanding that what they did was not a crime, it was their job. And if I can tell you a quick story. So one vet who he'd been non-communicative with his team, because some guys go on, or women go on this trip and kind of have to be forced a little bit. But when he came out of Yad Vashem, he hadn't been speaking to anyone, and he called everyone together and said, "I have a story to tell." And he told the story of how he was with his platoon, and a father came up with his 10-year-old son, gave the son his gun, and said, "Kill the infidels." And this guy had to kill the 10-year-old, and he also killed the father for giving anyway. But he had a 10-year-old son at home, and how can you reconcile that? And why Yad Vashem helped him to understand the final exhibit at Yad Vashem is a candle for every child killed, murdered during the Holocaust. And what he realized at that moment was that he wasn't a murderer. He wasn't a sociopath. He was a soldier doing his job. And there's a big difference. And, that's what these guys, and not to mention the fact that by being there with peers, people who've been through the same, people who suffer the same, you can't discuss this with me. You can't discuss it with your neighbor, but you can discuss it with your peers. And, we've been around for about 12 years, 13 years, and haven't lost a graduate of the program.
Yeah. Yeah, because isn't the suicide rate like 17 vets a day now or something like that?
You know what? The number, it's kind of a moving target, the number, but I use 20 plus a day.
Yeah.
And COVID was particularly destructive with the isolation, with the depression, very, very difficult. But the woman who runs the program, I met her at a business club one day. I was doing work in Manhattan. There was a woman sitting across from me doing work on a computer. I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she told me about Heroes to Heroes. And I said, "You know what? I got to get involved with that." And it's, how often in life do chance encounters make such a big difference?
Well, it probably wasn't such a chance encounter.
You think it was, you think there was divine intervention? Okay.
I don't think a lot of things happen by chance.
That may very well be true, but
that's awesome.
I'm very fortunate that that chance encounter did happen.
Yeah.
And, it's she's doing God's work.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, what are you excited for in the upcoming year, Michael? What's on your radar?
Well, in business, I'm hoping that interest rates drop.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's going to happen. So I'm looking forward to persevering in business, of course. It's definitely been a little bit slower. And I'm working overtime trying to think of ways to bring people together who can hopefully do business together. And, I don't know if you've ever heard of BNI, but Givers Gain. So, one of the things I focus on a lot is putting people together, and you hope that at some point that comes back. Yeah. But besides business, I'm hoping to become a better putter, because if I could putt and take 8 strokes off my game, because I 3-putt pretty much every green. So, and I'm a 22 handicap. So if I could 2-putt half of them, I'd be a pretty good golfer. So that's another thing. And my middle daughter is getting married this year, so I'm very excited about that.
Good stuff.
And what else? You know what? Just enjoying life.
Yes. Yes. Good. Good. Yeah. You said talk about Go Giver or the Giver's Win, and I was able to interview Bob Berg, the person that wrote the book, The Go Giver, one of the co-authors of it a few weeks ago. And I don't know if you've never read that book, it's definitely worth taking the time to read it.
I do know the book.
And but yeah, that's great. Well, Michael, it's been awesome having you on today. I just your story about how you had to reinvent your business and then how you've taken that into a different direction, taking your title insurance, Hallmark Abstract Services, the title insurance company, in a different direction, not with really what you do, how you do it with some different technology, and then how you introduce yourself to the community and how you cast a wider net through social media and doing your Do You Ever Wonder podcast and other things. I think it's a very powerful story of what you can do if you put your mind to it.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you having me on as a guest. It's been great.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, thanks for being here today, Michael. If people want to talk to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, they can call me always at 516-741-4723. They can find me at hallmarkabstractllc.com on the internet.
Very good.
Using my name, they will find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to speak to them there, or on actually on LinkedIn would probably be the best place.
Very good.
Yeah, all good stuff.
All right. Well, thanks for being here today, Michael. I want to thank James Kunkel. James was on the show last year. Awesome stuff. Thanks everyone else that was listening today, and we will be back again next week. Michael, hang out just for a moment. We'll talk for a minute when we're done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Damon.
You bet.